Hey everybody, and welcome to Pancrase Legends of Mixed Martial Arts. It's a brand new show you can see only here on Imagination TV. I'm your host Rob Wu, and joining me all season long will be our expert analyst. He's the 4th ranked heavyweight in the world and current King of Pancrase champion, Josh Barnett. Josh, great to have you here.
It's wonderful to be here, Rob, and I'm really looking forward to introducing Pancrase to the rest of the American audience and show some of these earlier matches that were a big inspiration to me in getting into fighting.
Now, to all the people out there who might not know so much about the sport, explain to them a little bit, what exactly is mixed martial arts?
Well, mixed martial arts is really the culmination of all the different styles of fighting allowed into either the ring or the cage. There are various styles varying between different organizations, but the reality of it is just about anything goes, any kind of technique, striking, wrestling, submissions, just about anything you need to finish a fight off. And in my opinion, this is the highest level of athletics that you can really reach.
And when we talk about mixed martial arts, there's no way you can mention that without mentioning Pancrase.
Absolutely, Rob. I mean, this is sort of a stepping stone for many of the major organizations, and Pancrase alone has had 4 Ultimate Fighting champions from that organization, which certainly has to say something about their development as fighters, but also the skills that are within Pancrase.
Now, over the years, the fighters have changed, titles have also changed hands. How has the sport evolved over the years?
Well, Pancrase was really an extension of professional wrestling in Japan. It is the reality and the dream of showing the reality of professional wrestling, as we'll get into later on. But the start with Pancrase, they didn't have certain things that people might be used to, like open finger gloves to allow punching to the face, and some of the techniques and things like using the cage as a medium to hold the fights in. But Pancrase at its best, the way I like to describe it is, it is really the beauty of the art.
All right, now let's take a look at how Pancrase began.
今この場所にいることに悔いはありません。いろいろな人とのお別れもありました。その反面、理想を共鳴できる仲間を得ることができました。とても大切な仲間です。その仲間たちと一緒に貫いてきたファイトスタイルで信念を守るために団体を起こすことにしました。自分たちは絶対に諦めません。やり続けていけることが一番大切なことだと思います。船木正勝の21世紀への挑戦、自分の将来が有望か有望じゃないか、これからが勝負だと思います。新しい戦いが始まります。ぜひ注目してください。以上です。
誰に対してでも絶対に負けなかった自分たちの夢と情熱がやっと形になってできることになりました。これは僕だけの力では絶対にできなかったことですし、ここにいる全員の選手の気持ちと、あと皆さんの応援があったから、こんな僕たちを見捨てなかった皆さんがいてくれたおかげでここまで来ることができました。ありがとうございます。
Now that was Minoru Suzuki, one of the co-founders of Pancrase, along with Masa Funaki. These two guys have had a long history together, Josh.
Yeah, both of them were students of the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo and trained under such notables as Karl Gotch, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, and the great Antonio Inoki. From them, it's been sort of a lifelong journey all the way up into this point.
All right, now let's take a look at that history.
全く別々の道を歩んできた2人の男、船木正勝と鈴木みのる。彼らが同じ道を歩み始めた時、その彼方にはパンクラスという終着点が見えた。中学校を卒業すると同時に15歳で新日本プロレスの門を叩いた船木正勝。その後約1年間にわたるトレーニング期間を経て85年ヤングライオン杯でプロデビューを果たす。当時まだ16歳という若さであった。 新日本プロレスの次期エース候補として期待されていた船木は以降着実に実力をつけていくことになる。そして船木のデビューから2年遅れて鈴木みのるが新日本プロレス入りを果たす。高校時代はアマレスで活躍していた鈴木みのるは卒業と同時に新日本プロレスに入団する。そして88年念願のプロデビュー。しかしこの頃旗揚げした UWF のスタイルに興味を持つようになった鈴木はやがて UWF への移籍を決意することになる。鈴木のデビューとほぼ時を同じくしてヨーロッパ遠征に出ていた船木も突然の帰国とともに UWF への移籍を宣言する。そして1989年4月船木、鈴木ともに UWF への移籍が実現する。2人が新日本プロレスの道場の頃からずっと考えていた理想の団体、それを少しでも実現するためにこの UWF のリングを選んだ。しかしこれが果たして自分たちが考えていたスタイルなのだろうか。異常なほどの UWF ブームの真っ只中にあって常に彼らの頭の中にあったのはそんな疑問であった。そして UWF 人気と反比例するかのように船木と鈴木のファイトは空回りを続けるのであった。そんな中で迎えたのが船木、鈴木の直接対決であった。3年以上も遡ったこの日、2人の心の中にはすでにパンクラスの存在があった。 UWF の解散後、鈴木と船木は藤原義明率いる藤原組にその戦いの場を移す。そして外人選手として参戦していたシャムロックはその後船木、鈴木と同じ道を歩むことになる。藤原組で数々の戦いを繰り広げてきた2人であったが、自分自身の心の中では理想のスタイルはまだ完成されていなかった。そして彼らは旅立った。自分たちの夢を求めて。
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, the other fighters of Pancrase. We've got some pretty big names. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back, and of course, you just saw Minoru Suzuki and Masa Funaki, but they're not the only fighters, Josh.
No, in fact, Pancrase has had a who's who list of top fighters to come throughout the years. And some of the more familiar names might be Ken Shamrock, Frank Shamrock, Guy Mesger, Semi Schilt, just to name a few. But even within the Japanese fighters themselves, some of the more popular fighters like Masakatsu Funaki and Minoru Suzuki helped develop some of the talent that is not only coaching some of the new stars of Pancrase, but are continuing to fight as well.
All right, let's take a look at some of these fighters. And over there, I guess you could kind of say the founding fathers of Pancrase there, Josh.
Yeah, really, this is sort of the guys that were convinced to come together to create a different product from what was already available.
And one of the main reasons they did that, as we see Wayne Shamrock, who you might recognize as Ken Shamrock, his nickname, the world's most dangerous man, and he has that nickname for a reason.
Yes, he certainly earned it through breaking ankles and stretching a few guys in the Ultimate Fighting Championship in its early heyday.
And Katsumi Inagaki, our next fighter, he actually has a gym in his hometown in Osaka.
Yeah, he does. He's the head trainer of the Pancrase Inagaki Gumi and has produced notable stars like Yoshihiro Maeda and Pancrase Athena's star Asuka Ito.
Inagaki, just 24 years old, also has a black belt in judo. And here we see Ryushi Yanagisawa. What can you tell me about Ryushi, Josh?
Well, he was the biggest of the initial guys brought over, certainly for the Japanese, but he was a karateka before getting into pro wrestling Fujiwara Gumi and wanted to try his hand at mixed martial arts.
And next up, we're seeing Yoshiki Takahashi. He's actually the model of a main character of a comic book in Japan.
Yeah, there's a comic called High School Story Tough, in which they based the character loosely off of Yoshiki Takahashi. And I fought Takahashi, and I can tell you this guy is as aggressive as they come.
Seems like they picked the right guy. And here we see Yusuke Fuke, formerly of the UWF.
Yeah, Fuke has really been a real journeyman throughout the pro wrestling ranks within Japan, and he even happened to come to my old gym, AMC, to get some training in at one point.
And Fuke, a great all-around athlete. During his schooling, he was in track and field and a judo player. And here we see Minoru Suzuki, one of the co-founders of Pancrase, one of the biggest, probably maybe the biggest name in Pancrase at the time.
Yeah, Suzuki was an incredible ground fighter, and not only that, he was Carl Gotch's one of his favorite students, known for having just an incredible mean streak as well.
Now, of course, there's no way you can mention Minoru Suzuki without mentioning the other co-founder of Pancrase, Masakatsu Funaki.
Yeah, Funaki, an incredible athlete, excellent leg attacks, especially with the toe hold, and now is in fact going to make a comeback.
Wise idea, Josh?
We'll have to see how ring rust takes a play into it, but Funaki has always been an incredible athlete and is a real skilled veteran in the ring, so I expect him to be tough for anybody he fights.
And Funaki's last fight was against Rickson Gracie, which he lost. What did you think of that fight, Josh?
I felt that maybe at that time Funaki was sort of wound down from constant years of fighting, pro wrestling. Really, this has been the biggest and probably the only break Funaki's had throughout his career.
All right, let's hear from the fighters.
皆さんこんばんは。To the fans of Pancrase, we want to create the strongest style. We hope, and I hope, that you will enjoy Pancrase style. Domo arigato.
私たちは最強の格闘技を目指しています。ぜひ私たちのパンクラスを応援してください。続きまして稲垣選手から皆様へご挨拶です。
頑張りますのでよろしくお願いします。
続きまして柳沢選手から皆様へご挨拶です。
本日はご来場ありがとうございます。自分が今まで努力していた成果を少しでも出せればいいと思って試合しますのでよろしくお願いします。
続きまして高橋選手から皆様へご挨拶です。
And now we see Yoshiki Takahashi speaking, Josh. How do you think the transition will be for him going from the UWF, where matches are predetermined, to Pancrase?
Well, the main thing that differentiates the Japanese pro wrestlers from some of what we might know as American pro wrestling is that guys like Fuke, who we see now, and Takahashi, Suzuki, Shamrock, their training was really all reality-based. They were trained to be fighters, even if they may have had predetermined matches in the ring. So really, it's more an application of something that they've already been doing.
And Yusuke Fuke, very emotional right now, as we're seeing. This looks like a dream come true for him.
Well, you know, it's hard to see it at the time, but really, this was a revolutionary period in the pro wrestling and MMA scene within Japan.
自分は18歳の時に新日本プロレスに入りまして、その時に船木さんと出会いました。その時に夜遅くまで一緒に話していた夢の理想の団体がやっと今日形になります。皆さん一人一人の手でこの団体に命を与えてください。お願いします。
最後に船木選手から皆様へご挨拶
本日は、たくさんのご来場本当にありがとうございます。今ここに来ているファンの皆さん、試合がない時も自分たちに声援を送ってくれたファンの皆さん、あと試合がなくても自分たちの記事を取り上げてパンクラスを盛り上げてくれたマスコミの方々、毎日毎日パンクラスのために夜遅くまで働いてくれたフロントの皆さん、パンクラスを影の力で支えてくれているたくさんの協力者の方々、そして9ヶ月間一緒に毎日一生懸命頑張ってきた練習生と選手のみんな、本当にありがとうございます。皆さんのおかげで今やっとパンクラスが誕生しました。これからは自分たち選手一人一人が思いっきりぶつかり合ってたくさんの戦いを残してパンクラスを成長させていくことが自分たち選手の役目だと思っています。一生懸命戦いますんで、これからもパンクラスをよろしくお願いいたします。
All right, now that we know more about the fighters, let's take a look at the rules.
パンクラスの公式ルールで特筆されるべき点は、他団体では禁じられているいくつかの攻撃が認められていることである。まず、流れの中での喉への攻撃、膝正面など関節へのキック攻撃、頭突きによる攻撃、そして喉に入った締め技は認められる。反則となる攻撃、顔面および頭部へのパンチ攻撃、肘の先端による打撃攻撃、ニーパッドをつけていない状態での膝による打撃攻撃、レガースをつけていない状態でのキック攻撃、つま先による打撃攻撃、グラウンドポジションにある相手に対する頭部への打撃攻撃。ただし張り手、小手による攻撃は可能である。反則の裁定はレフリーが所持したカードによって明示され、特に危険と判断した場合は反則負けとなる。ダウンまたはロープエスケープを1回するごとにロストポイントが加算される。そしてロストポイントが5回になった時点で自動的に TKO 負けとなる。
All right, the wait is over. The first ever match in Pancrase coming up next. Welcome back, and our first fight features Minoru Suzuki versus Katsuomi Inagaki. Josh, how do you see this fight playing out?
Well, Suzuki is clearly the veteran in this case and a ground master. Inagaki, no stiff on his own right, but I think he's in a little over his head, and I think even he knows that at this point.
All right, we shall see if that holds true. Let's go ringside.
Versus Katsuomi Inagaki.
一つ抜けたらここにはたどり着かないっていうんですかね、その間の藤原組がなければここにはたどり着かないし、 UWF がなくてもたどり着かないし、もちろん新日本に最初に入門しなければ、違う団体に入門してたらまた違ったこのプロレスっていうか格闘技の人生を歩んでたんじゃないかなっていう気しますけど。
As we see Katsuomi Inagaki coming into the ring, he's just 24 years old, so his best years are in front of him. And Minoru Suzuki coming out with the trademark towel, black towel over the head, Josh.
Yeah, and From this, he derived a nickname, the Black Hall, in Japan.
And Suzuki, look at those eyes, a very fearsome look. Is he trying to intimidate Inagaki?
I don't think trying is really the word. Suzuki was one of the most intimidating fighters within Pancrase, and I've personally trained and toured in pro wrestling with Suzuki before, and he's a very intense individual.
Inagaki, eyes not so intense. And Suzuki, of course, was a character in the Tekken video game. You can see why there. He looks like he should be in a video game.
Yeah, actually, a little known fact, Suzuki and some of the other Pancrase fighters were the people responsible for delivering all the motion capture work for a character named King in Tekken 3.
Now, the ref's checking, and at first I thought, what or where could the fighters be hiding anything? But he's not looking for illegal objects, Josh.
No, checking for any greases or oils that might hinder someone like Suzuki here as they're going for takedowns and grappling.
And a nice single leg takedown by Suzuki. Great technique, Josh.
Yes, getting the fight right to the mat, and really, I think for Suzuki, this match is a lot about control. Getting some hand control here, and Nagaki looking for the armbar off of his back, but I don't think Suzuki's going to fall for that.
Suzuki stands at just around 5'9", not the biggest guy, but Josh, what he lacks in size, he makes up in speed and skill.
Exactly, and not to mention, not only speed and skill, but he's an incredibly vicious wrestler at that, as he's looking for the heel hook here as he dropped back to take the ankle.
Now, as both fighters are on the ground, you have to favor Suzuki in a matchup like this on the ground.
Certainly, and I think really all around it's really going to be about Suzuki, but there's something about having fear that can drive a opponent who's not as experienced to sort of pull out that adrenaline and maybe get that strike in or get that submission or hold out just that much longer.
Suzuki looked like he had the ankle of Inagaki. Now Inagaki gets out, but he looks like he dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, that was a pretty tight heel hook, but Inagaki was able to withstand the pain and continue to move and relieve the pressure and escape the hold as he's going for a toe hold here while Minoru works the back here and looking for a face lock or a choke perhaps.
Now Inagaki has his back turns to Minoru. What does he have to do to change that?
Well, he's got to get that grapevine out from underneath, and Suzuki's riding fairly loose because I think it's really more about picking his opportunities really than being too worried about where Inagaki's going to go.
Inagaki throws a knee to Suzuki, but Suzuki's smiling as if to say, I barely felt that.
Like I said, one of the meanest guys within the Pancrase organization, and it's really, to me, this match is about, it's more of a cat and mouse game.
So far, Suzuki, as you can see his face, he's looking very cool and composed, and the ref breaks the fighters. You'll see that sometimes if there's not enough action going on or if the fighter's near the ropes, the ref will break them apart. Good rule, bad rule, Josh?
I think it's a good rule, certainly in concerns to the environment and the rule sets that they're using, and really you want to own the center of the ring in any circumstances, but especially with Pancrase, you don't want him to be able to get that rope if you happen to have him down and caught in that submission that's going to finish that match.
Inagaki was getting aggressive coming at Suzuki, but Suzuki with another single leg takedown, and now he's back on top.
Really, Suzuki's just applying his dominance onto Inagaki throughout this match, and it's really looking for the opportunity when he's going to see the chance to put Inagaki away.
Now, Inagaki's got to be feeling some pressure. It's his debut fight, and he's fighting the co-founder of Pancrase. He's got to feel the pressure.
He's got to be feeling a lot of pressure, but at the same time, getting a chance to step up and be in that position, to be the guy to face someone like Suzuki in the opening match, that's a big honor as well.
Minoru Suzuki looks like he's nearing a rear naked choke. Inagaki trying to do everything to get away from it. I don't know how successful he is, and now it looks like Suzuki has locked in that rear naked choke. Inagaki trying everything to get it off. I don't think he has a shot.
He's prying the hands, he's trying to get his hands free, he's trying to release the hold on the lock. Suzuki switches to a different grip, into a short choke.
Inagaki's corner telling him to tap out. And finally, Inagaki does. I'm not sure Suzuki realizes it. He's still got the chokehold on. And finally, the referee breaks it up, but Inagaki is out, Josh. He's in his own little world out there.
You know, maybe Suzuki might have even felt him tap, but he might not have been so inclined to let it go.
And Inagaki losing consciousness as Suzuki, a very impressive victory in his debut fight, Josh.
Yeah, and it's a very emotional, and here he is approaching the head of All Japan Kickboxing, just asking for a rematch against Maurice Smith, the world champion kickboxer at the time, and also former UFC champion from a previous bout, which they had in UWF, in which Maurice was victorious by knockout over Suzuki.
And of course, Suzuki looking for revenge, and he would get it in Event 6 of Pancrase.
は全日本キックボクシングの社長さんにどんなルールでもいいからモーリス・スミスをもう一度やらせてくれとお願いしました。みんなで実現に向けて応援してください。よろしくお願いします。
満足、技術的なものよりも気分的なものですごく乗れたっていうか乗った形で試合ができたんで、それはまあ気分的なもので良かったなと思いますけど、自分の世代の時に自分が引退するまでの間にできるだけこのスタイル、要するにパンクラスっていうのをねやっぱ世界中に広めたいですね。でそのためにはまず日本に定着させていくつもこうジムができて、それが世界に広がっていくような形を取れればなと思いますけど。
Ryushi Yanagisawa vs. Boss Roon.
Boss Roon is taking on Ryushi Yanagisawa. At the time, Nagasawa, the 4th-ranked heavyweight in Pancrase. Boss Roon, of course, nicknamed El Guapo, goes 6'1", 205 pounds, has since become a legend in mixed martial arts. Some argue the best Dutch fighter ever. And at this time, Boss Roon doesn't have a great ground game, but his striking already one of the best in Pancrase. And his opponent is Ryushi Yanagisawa, who actually went to Thailand for a week to study Muay Thai, and right now the 4th-ranked heavyweight. The first fight for both fighters. As we start off the fight, both fighters exchanging kicks. Now Roon comes with a high right kick and a right palm strike takes Yanagisawa down. And right now, I don't know if Nagasawa can tell you what year it is. In a little bit of trouble, manages to get back on his feet, and the referee will continue this fight. He does get deducted a point. Roon comes right at him, another right kick to the liver. Yanagisawa down again, and he was in his boat club in high school, but right now he must feel like he's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, has no idea what's going on around him, and he is knocked out by Boss Roon. A very impressive victory, 43 seconds into the first round for Roon, as you see him doing the Roon jump, and Yanagisawa out cold, as the doctors will take a look at him, and Boss Roon also a little bit concerned for Yanagisawa now. Yanagisawa actually spent 2 days in the hospital, but he would be okay as we take a look at the replay. A right palm strike to the face, and Yanagisawa takes that, and he gets up. As we take one more look at it, the first knockdown, and Yanagisawa does get up, but only suffers even more damage. A right kick to the liver of Yanagisawa. As we see left kick, right palm strike, another right knee. Yanagisawa goes down, blood coming out of his nose, and that would be the end of the fight.
すごい嬉しかったんですけど、やっぱその分すごい緊張感が、相手もだいぶすごい殺気を出してたんで、ピーンとちょっと張り詰めたんで、ちょっと怖いなっていう、すごい相手が最初から僕を倒す気で来てたんで、それに対しての僕の気持ちがまだちょっと不足してたかな、対応しきれなかったっていうすごい悔しい思いをしたんで、あとやっぱ世界レベルの打撃の選手とやれてすごいいい経験になりました。
Welcome back to the show. Our next fight is going to feature Yosuke Fuke against Vernon Tiger White. And Josh, back then, Vernon wasn't as good as he is today.
No, he was certainly starting completely from scratch with his entrance into Pancrase. But if you wanted somewhere to really cut your teeth, Pancrase was a great choice.
All right, let's take a look at how Vernon Tiger White does in his debut.
Yusuke Fuke versus Vernon Tiger White.
Now he is fighting Yosuke Fuke, 24 years of age at the time, but over here we're seeing Vernon Tiger White, and he's a Shamrock disciple actually, and he's still active in the IFL, the International Fight League.
Yeah, Vernon is he has not stopped fighting since his induction into Pancrase and just has continued to improve and fight the top competition throughout the world.
And Fuke, a great athlete as well, track and field, and a judo player back when he was in school.
One of his most dangerous techniques is he's got an incredibly fast spinning backhand shote.
And Fuke has looks like he's going to get the early side control on Vernon Tiger White.
Yeah, Vernon right now is really at a disadvantage, and I would think that while he has had some training before entering this match, a lot of the things that are going to be done to him completely new at this point.
And we just saw Vernon trying to wiggle out of this position. What does he have to do to get out of what Fuke has?
He's going to have to bridge Fuke over. Now right here he's caught in a pillow V1 arm lock, which is a very dangerous position to be in, also known as a telephone arm lock sometimes. But Vernon, from displays like this, would acquire the name of the Worm, as well as the Tiger, for his ability to withstand and be stretched and not end up submitting. I mean, by now my shoulder would have popped right out of socket.
And Fuke also has White's arms in between his legs. Why is he doing that?
That's applying pressure on his shoulder and elbow, and it's actually a very dangerous position to be in. He's got a neck lock and shoulder lock, transitioning now to the armbar.
And Fuke looks like he's very close to that armbar. He just has to get White flipped over. This fight could be over any second, Josh.
Yeah, Vernon's got to be careful from getting his arm extended right here in this position. And there it is.
And he's got it. White taps out. Yusuke Fuke is your winner. I guess he didn't need that banana this morning, Josh.
Well, bananas aside, certainly when you get a hold of somebody's elbow like that, they only got two choices. Let it get broke or tap out.
Yusuke Fuke very happy with that victory. 119 in the first round as we come back to the studio. Now, Vernon Tiger White looking more like a baby cub out there in this first fight.
Wow, and you know, you really can't hold it against the guy simply for the fact that he hasn't really had any martial experience as far as real fighting to this point, and it's just a learning curve for Vernon, so no harm, no foul, certainly in this instance.
All right, next up we're going to see Yoshiki Takahashi versus George Weingroff.
Yoshiki Takahashi versus George Weingroff.
As we see George come into the ring now, he's already 41 years of age coming into this fight. Is that getting too old to be a fighter?
Well, certainly we've seen some examples of folks in their 40s that are still able to be successful in the world of mixed martial arts, but to make your debut at 41, a little difficult.
Now, George was a state champion in Tennessee college and high school wrestling, but that was probably a long time ago. And he's going to fight Yoshiki Takahashi, just 24 years old, 17-year difference. And Takahashi also the main character of a comic book in Japan, as we've mentioned earlier.
Right. Exciting high school story, Tough, as drawn by Saru Watari, a friend of mine. But Yoshiki Takahashi, in concerns of wrestling, was captain of his university wrestling team in college. That was a little redundant, but either way, Takahashi has the fire to be in the ring, and is just an incredibly aggressive striker as well as submission artist.
Now, Weingroff shooting in possibly for a takedown, but a good sprawl by Takahashi so far, not allowing Weingroff to take him down, Josh.
Yeah, Weingroff certainly doesn't really seem like he wants to get hit too badly. It's really not his cup of tea, and this is fighting. It's not something that you're going to be able to avoid. So, you know, certainly a lot of respect for Weingroff to step in the ring, but
now a knees and a palm strike to Weingroff. Takahashi looking to have the advantage, and Weingroff just shooting in blindly. If he keeps that up, he's going to get a knee sooner or later.
Yeah, you got to see what you're doing out there, and Weingroff is really grasping at straws.
And we just saw that knee right there. He goes down. He'll be deducted 1 point. George has to change his game plan. He just can't shoot in with his head down.
I think at this point, Weingroff, his eyes have really been opened as to what he got himself into.
Weingroff, I don't think he got the memo. He's still shooting in blindly, and Takahashi gives him another knee, and he goes down again. You know what, Josh? Fool me once, shame on me, shame on you. You know how the saying goes. Fool
Exactly.
me twice, shame on who?
Shame on me. But either way, I think Takahashi, it was just going to be a matter of time before he put him down and out. Weingroff, I really think that it's a heroic endeavor and really admirable to get in the ring and to give it a shot, but this wasn't really his cup of tea.
as we take a look at the replay. Weingroff, as we said earlier, head down. He ate a knee to the face, and he's not getting up, Josh.
No. Takahashi was just looking for a chance to put him away and down and out and get that fight done with.
And as we can see why, that was the only fight of George Weingroff's short Pancrase career. All right, when we come back, our main event. Welcome back to the show, and now it's time for our main event. Masa Funaki versus Wayne Shamrock. Should be a very exciting fight, Josh.
I agree. I mean, this is really two of the top fighters of Pancrase at the time meeting in a main event. These two would meet many more times in the future, but both eventually would go on to claim King of Pancrase titles. So you could see this as a king versus king match.
All right, let's see what they did before they became kings.
Masakatsu Funaki versus Wayne Shamrock.
And we see Wayne Shamrock coming in now. These two guys are very familiar with each other. They spent time previously in the UWF, Josh.
That's right. Both were students of the UWF. Also, both migrated with Yoshiaki Fujiwara when Fujiwara started his group, the Fujiwara Gumi, and has had many a pro wrestling match against each other, a lot of training together as well, which is probably why they're two of the best fighters in Pancrase.
ここが違うっていうのはやっぱり使ってる技とかそういうのはいろいろあるんですけども、いろんな団体でも自分たちが使ってる技ってのあるんですけども、それを受け合ったりとか、あとは事前に何ていうんですかね、こういう技を出してやろうと思ってそれがうまくかかったりとか、そういう受け合いの試合じゃないっていうところが一番大きな違いですね。だからお互いにさゴンがカーンと始まったらもうどういう攻撃してくるかも分かんないし、逆にどういう攻撃をされるかも分かんないし、だからどういう攻撃をするのも自由だし、そういう意味で今まで練習してきた技をそのままリング上で相手に叩きつけて、で勝負を争うっていう当たり前の試合をするっていうのが一番パンクラスの特徴だと思います。
Now, Masakatsu Funaki, he's 38 years old now, and we've spoken before. He wants to make a comeback. Now, why do you think that is, Josh? Is it just a fighter in him that wants to just stay in the ring?
Certainly, I think that he's been out and he sees the evolution of MMA. He sees how some of the other fighters coming in here. He's trained other athletes to fight within MMA, and it's just within a person to want to fight in the first place. And I just think that he doesn't feel like he's had his fill of being in the ring.
Now we're seeing flowers being delivered to both fighters. Josh, has anyone given you flowers in the ring?
Yes, actually. Usually pretty girls and not guys, but the sentiment, I guess, is appreciated either way.
Can I get an invite to the ring the next time you step in? Possibly get some flowers?
Not a problem. I'll see if they dig your style.
All right, and Funaki actually trained Wayne Shamrock in many submission moves, so I guess you can say we're kind of seeing a teacher versus student matchup here.
Yes, in some ways. In fact, Ken Shamrock's induction into submission wrestling was to get stretched out, as they refer to it in the business, by Funaki and Suzuki over and over and over and over again. So his trial by fire was to get pretty much every limb on his body torqued and tweaked and getting choked multiple times. And it really seemed to have paid off, as Shamrock is one of the most well-known and most successful fighters within the MMA industry.
And now, in a teacher versus student matchup, you would think the teacher has the advantage.
Certainly, but with somebody like Ken Shamrock, who is just an incredible fighter, an incredible physical specimen, and he's not someone that's going to roll over regardless of whether it was his teacher, friend, doesn't matter. Ken's going to get down to business.
All right, and glad to see that both fighters have passed the airport inspection that the referee has conducted, and the fight will go on. Shamrock's strong right leg kick gets some oohs and ahs from the crowd.
Yeah, right to the midsection there. Funaki's got to be sure not to absorb too many of those, as with a 30-minute match, shots to the body can really come into play.
And now both fighters exchanging blows. A very aggressive start by both men, Josh.
Yeah, both looking kind of for the knockout shot right off the bat, but I think this is just a little bit of a feeling out process. Big shote, right shote from Funaki. And that had to wake Ken up.
That just shook Shamrock right off him. Fighters getting in a clinch, as you see Funaki lifting his leg up, possibly to prevent any knee attacks from Ken.
Preventing the knee, preventing any kicks to the leg. Neither one really looking to take either one of them down to the mat at this point in the match, but I don't think they're going to keep it on the feet the entire time. Shamrock scoring with a jab earlier on, now hitting with a low kick and a shot to the body.
Now, we know Ken Shamrock as a great fighter nowadays, but just how good was he back then?
In fact, I think a lot of people would say that Ken Shamrock's best days may have been in Pancrase.
And now Ken Shamrock has the rear mount. And what does Funaki has to do in this position? He looks to be at the disadvantage right now.
Well, Shamrock working a waist lock takedown. Riding behind, working the face lock here. Funaki's got to control the hands. He's got to keep control of all of his limbs and really just be aware of where Shamrock's at and not let him flatten him out and break his posture.
And so far in the fight, Shamrock, a lot of what he's learned is from Funaki, and so far he seems to be holding his own out there.
Yeah, well, it's going to be difficult to. Nice face lock takeover.
Now, why did Ken let that go, Josh?
Well, he needed to secure the position before he could really secure the submission. So at that time, he didn't quite have Funaki locked down. As he's transitioned to the double grapevines here, he's got him flattened out. Now rolling over into the mount where Funaki can more easily defend himself. Now it's just a matter of finding the opening against two great grapplers.
Now you see Funaki extending his arms, trying to keep his distance from Shamrock.
Yeah, just sort of posturing up, trying to create some space, looking for an escape. He's well aware of the sort of techniques that Shamrock's going to use to submit him at this point, but regardless, he's got to be careful. Shamrock working the Nelson there.
How important is it, Josh, for Funaki to be patient and not try to escape too quickly when he doesn't have the right position?
Well, he's got to understand at this point in his career that the techniques, that anything that's going to be thrown at him, he's going to have to have seen it before. So he needs to conserve some of his energy. And like I said earlier, he's got 30 minutes worth of fighting that he may have to go through. So I think stamina can really come into play.
And both fighters, once again, Shamrock on top, Funaki still on the bottom. That's what we've seen for most of the fight thus far. And now Shamrock looking to go for the lower body of Funaki.
Yeah, Funaki was kind of giving up the arm for a second, trying to bait Shamrock into trying to take a cross arm scissor. But Shamrock with a full Nelson attempt, not a good spot to be in, a very difficult hold to escape, and looking for the toe hold now.
Looks like Funaki's trying to get up on his feet, but Shamrock just not allowing him to do that.
And Shamrock riding very tight, not really allowing him to get any space to either reverse or get on top. A knee bar attempt, and dangerous position for Shamrock to even be in, as Funaki is a well-renowned leg submission artist.
Now with both these fighters on the ground having a hold of each other's feet, can you say one person has a distinct advantage?
Well, I will say that Shamrock was the first to initiate the Achilles lock here. And that should give him an advantage to getting the submission first. But Funaki is just very wily on the ground, and you never know when he's going to turn something of yours into a submission before you can even blink.
Now both fighters are not doing much, so we can expect the referee to probably break them at any moment, and there he does right there. Now that, of course, he wants to encourage the action, move the fight along.
With two evenly matched competitors, it's not unusual to see him end up in a stalemate position sometimes.
And Funaki's got to be happy. It's the first time in a while he's been on his feet. He should stretch his legs a little bit.
As he eats another middle kick to the body there from Shamrock, Funaki I think he would really want to look to try and score the top position here in this match.
And it looks like he tried right there, but unsuccessful, and we're right back where we started. Ken Shamrock on top.
Ken, really a very powerful fighter, but also known for having very strong hips and very difficult to get off of his feet.
It looks like Funaki taught him well, maybe too well.
Well, I think they're both using great examples of each other's strengths, with Ken using his power and a little bit of a size advantage to try and wear Funaki down and keep that top position. Funaki really looking for more of a technical opportunity to use his vast submission knowledge against Shamrock.
Funaki throwing body punches. Are you surprised by how this fight is unfolding so far, Josh?
Well, I didn't expect Funaki to be on the bottom the entire time, but however, Ken is a really strong individual and he's hard to take off his feet. Although, he's being quite cautious. Although, looking for the side choke
I think he might have it, Josh.
Yeah, that's a very dangerous position for Funaki to be in, and I would expect him to really start to try and escape, get his elbow down, bridge, anything. You can't sit there.
Well, Funaki doesn't seem to be doing anything except grimacing with his face. That's not going to help him.
Well, he's pushing against his hand there to put his elbow in against Shamrock's head to try and clear some space to breathe, but Shamrock taking his time, he's not rushing it, just squeezing, laying his body weight in with his shoulder into Funaki's arm and his neck.
Funaki still held in this choke, and he finally taps out. Ken Shamrock pulls off the upset. I don't think the crowd saw this coming by their reaction, and Ken Shamrock very pumped up, as he should be.
Funaki, I think he's just being much too relaxed in there, and Shamrock, as strong and as powerful as he is, he saw his opportunity, and at that point, Funaki was unable to recover from his mistake.
We just saw Shamrock shout, "That's right, that's right." At 6:15 in the first round, Ken Shamrock wins via submission.
嬉しいんですけども、やっぱりちょっと複雑、負けたっていうのがすごい悔しくて複雑な心境です。でも今日が最後じゃないですから。本当に頑張りたいと思います。なんかやっと本当の勝負ができるようになったなっていうのが嬉しいです。でもそんだけ。
Now this is Funaki's debut fight as the co-founder of Pancrase. You're probably expected to win a lot of fights, not just your first fight. This has to be somewhat embarrassing for him.
I don't know if embarrassing is exactly the word, but a complete upset. It is even as strong as a fighter as Ken Shamrock is. Funaki just didn't see it coming.
Hey, Funaki could have picked a cupcake opponent, but he didn't.
I agree with that, and I think that was a smart choice, even regardless of the fact that he did lose that opening match. But it gave a good example of the sort of competition that you would see later on in Pancrase.
All right, those are all the matches we have for today. But before we go, let's check out our highlight of the day. And our highlight comes from Boss Roon versus Ryushi Yanagisawa. Talk about what we just saw, Josh.
Boss just electrifying, just coming straight forward, just pure aggression, following that kick up with a shote and another kick. Yanagisawa just was not ready for such aggression.
Yanagisawa, no stiff. At the time, he was the 4th ranked heavyweight in Pancrase. Has to be surprised. Just goes to show you how good Boss Rutan is.
Well, I think Boss Rutan really put an image in everybody's mind that they were all going to have to look out from here on out.
All right, and that wraps it up for our first show. Please come back next week for more Pancrase action. I'm Rob Wu.
I'm Josh Barnett.
Take a good look at the yellow skin, look at the face. After all this hard work, look at the change. Your career's on the line, just look at your game. Look at Flo Sick, cause he's the one to blame now. I'm the next frontline MC now. None of y'all can hang with me now. In the coop, I can feel the steady breeze now. Ice on the wrist, glimpse, make you free now. Newcomer flowing like an OG now. Rookie of the year, started for the team now. I'm a shine, homie, can't